live. It's that easy. So we are live now on the Freedom Revolution Network. We're going to bring you a special report tonight on the coronavirus and other research that we've done for this. We have Red with us. Say hello, Red.
Hello.
Red's the same, no matter if you get her on camera or not. So with that being said, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things tonight. We're going to get into some deep research on the coronavirus. We're going to talk about what we know right now, what the latest updates are. We're going to show you what we know. After last night's broadcast that I did, marathon broadcast, about the coronavirus, I think it's good to have a follow-up show. I did talk to Ron. He might be joining us later. I don't know about a response on that yet. So we'll find out. So, Red, tell the people what you know about the coronavirus.
I didn't do a lot of research on it.
Oh, yeah, the Spanish flu. Sorry. Let's talk about that right now. Let's do at least an update. Right now we're at 56 dead, and I believe we're over 2,019 cases at this point.
Okay. The Spanish flu. Now, for all you fact checkers out there, I have used only top of the line references here. So we will start with the History Channel reference.
Right.
Okay. It was actually written October 12th of 2010. Now, this is an ironic note that I want everybody to kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Keep your eye on.
Okay. Because it was updated February 22nd, 2019. Okay. So prior to that, I'm not sure what it said or what they changed or what they updated because they don't really tell you.
Okay.
Now, Spanish flu came in 1918. It struck us from 1918 to 1919. Okay. And this is all according to the History Channel. We're going to go, instead of jumbling all of the information together, which is going to seem like it's repeating itself, we're going to literally go reference by reference and what each reference says. Does that make sense? I know Scarlett just took off.
I did. I'll be back.
So,
I just had to confirm if we were live or not. And so I have confirmation. Oh, friend mugs. Yeah, friend mugs.
This is my other side, which is what you all are going to see all the damn time. Yes.
Here for it. Friend mugs. What do you got?
Tea of goodness, people. Tea of goodness.
Tea of goodness. What is it?
Red Diamond.
Like a black tea or?
Black and orange peacock.
I was going to say black orange peacock tea. I
didn't make my English breakfast tea. That is my stupid livestock dog. He is howling outside. Why? We don't know. But all of my livestock has stayed alive since we got this dog. He never shuts up, but nothing dies. So
what do you do? What do you do?
Even the one chicken, G.
Yeah.
Brownie. brownie is still here.
That's good. That's actually exciting. You might need
negative 20-degree weather, and that damn bird's strutting around in the freaking pasture.
Well, you might need the bird, okay, because with this coronavirus, if we start seeing it spread to the level that I think it could spread, not we're seeing cases at such a rapid development at this point. It's not good. It's not good. We might have to bug in.
That's what I got sheep for.
Yeah. You might have to, because let's think about this. The people in Wuhan right now, because let's think about this logistically. Right now, everything is cut off for them. You can't travel. Stores aren't open. Stores weren't going to be open really anyway because it's a holiday week. I don't know how much they stay open or if it's like a big shopping week or what. But a lot of people get money for, Chinese New Year. So they're not going to have the resources or food or anything that they actually need to survive. How long can these people survive in their homes with what they've got?
Right.
Because I know that the Japanese are more known to not have like a bunch of like fresh fruits or vegetables and just have a few things in their fridge. So I wonder if the Chinese are the same.
Let's get into some of this with this Spanish flu in 1918.
All right.
Okay. We're going to go source by source, even though it's going to seem like we're repeating the information, because it is very similar information, slightly different depending on which source you're looking at. Even the numbers fluctuate, which is interesting to me. Okay. So, according to the History Channel, it is the deadliest epidemic, obviously. Okay. In history, it's estimated 500 million were infected, 1/3 of the world's population. Okay. 20 to 50 million people, including around 675,000 Americans, died during the epidemic. It was first found in Europe, in the United States, and parts of Asia. It quickly spread around the world. It's unknown exactly where the strain of influenza came from. Still to this day, unknown where it came from. Okay? And you can feel free to jump in with anything here, Scarlett, when you're like, what? Okay, so now, it's unknown exactly where the strain of influenza came from. Still to this day. But fun, random side fact. None of y'all are going to believe this.
Right.
It's very unusual, actually, because it came in 3 waves, and it was most devastating in wave 2 and wave 3. However, it struck down the middle age population that is usually quite resilient to this type of influenza, which is the age 20 to 40 age range. Okay. Even more curious than that is that it included a very large number of World War I servicemen. In fact, the number of World War servicemen killed more soldiers than World War I. It actually affected 40% of the Navy and 36% of the Army. Okay? Now,
so much information I'm getting tonight while people are messaging me. So, ooh, a friend's daughter was involved in a rollover crash on the way to South Dakota. She's all right, but the other girls were ejected out of the vehicle. So that was some bombshell news that I was sitting here reading. Just saying. So that's why I didn't have too much to say about that. So I do apologize, but that's some pretty big news.
Now, National Geographic source. The only thing that I really took out of the National Geographic source, it repeats everything that we just said, but adds, and later on we're going to get to how it added that information, because I had to find another source that actually let me know where National Geographic got that information. I have that source. We're going to cover it. Calm down. So, according to National Geographic, it repeats everything that we just said. By the way, fun side note, possibly updated December 2019. Starting to see a little bit of a pattern.
Yeah, see, they probably edited some information. It'd be interesting to maybe have Mel go in the Wayback Machine and see if we could find any copies of this. Because if they just switched it in December, we know that the new coronavirus started in December.
Right. And the previous one was just updated February of 2019.
Right.
But was originally written in 2010 and nobody had touched it. Uh-huh. See?
I'm just saying, we don't know what that means, but it's something to look at, the discrepancies of why updating all of a sudden when no other information's been coming out.
Right.
This was just even a couple years ago. You know, they say, you know, it's like, you know, 2015, but like they say 2013, but MERS and Ebola just happened. I remember it being a big deal here because when you went to the doctor a few years ago, they were asking everybody, did you, you know, travel to the Middle East recently? Have you been out of the country? You know, all that. So.
Right.
They've been knowing about it. I'll tell you what.
So now, what National Geographic explains to us is that the Spanish flu of 1918 was, in fact, a strain A influenza, aka H1N1.
Right.
What?
Right. Now, this is important, though, because they keep saying, oh, it's a coronavirus, it's a novel strain. It's like SARS, it's like this, it's like that. They
like
also put it towards, it's what I was just going to say. They also say it's like the Spanish flu of 1918. That's something to pay attention to, because if H1N1 they claim is a new flu that was only reintroduced in 2009, but we know the patents were created in 2006. So with that being said, they knew about the virus even then, but we haven't heard of any other style of coronavirus before 2002. Something's going on. Why are we only hearing about this now? And why have they changed the whole pandemic of the Spanish flu?
Right. Now,
this is my question.
We're going to go to the next source.
Okay.
Okay, next source. Britannica. Okay.
Britannica.
Britannica. Updated December 6th of 2019.
The day the outbreak started. Okay, so just we don't know what that means, but you can make your own decision.
But what we can say is this is 3 sites in a row now, all updated within the first one. We'll let it kind of slide because that was February. So we'll say 2 within December of 2019.
Right after we know that Bill Gates had the Event 201 in New York City, where they all sat at the table talking about, oh, what's going to happen if there's a pandemic?
Oh, tell them, girl, tell them.
The Chinese CDC director was like, if we got an outbreak here in China like that, it would be almost impossible to contain.
Okay. We're going to talk about why it would be so hard for them to contain.
Yes.
In a moment. Okay.
We will. And, this is because let's think about it. If they're using the Spanish flu as one of the kind of base markers or foundation points that they're making about this, we need to look into why they say that and what happened and what occurred at the time.
Okay. Now, according to Britannica, 1918 to 1919, influenza pandemic was the result of an influenza virus called influenza type A, otherwise known as H1N1. 3-wave part
of the Spanish flu, y'all. First of all, let's just make that the point of the day. Return of the Spanish flu.
Right.
We were told swine flu.
Right.
They didn't try to call coronavirus that flu. Like that's where they're going with this. Like they want us to believe that.
Yeah, we're just changing names now, girl. This is like MK Ultra.
Yes, it's just like MK
Ultra. Okay. It's just like all the other projects. We don't change the project, we just change the name.
Right.
So, 3-wave part. The earliest part was March 1918. World War I started in Western Europe, and by July, it had already moved into Poland.
Right.
Another interesting fact about Spanish flu, by the way, it didn't start in Spain.
Why do we call it Spanish flu then?
It didn't really even hit Spain the hardest. So, I mean, they say that they were hit pretty hard, but as you read through all of this, they weren't really, and we don't really know why we're calling it Spanish flu. Other than they believe that it was like linked to the fact that it was World War I and there was a lot of traveling and somehow it got named Spanish flu. It rolled off the tongue well, I guess. I don't know. It was scary sounding then. I don't know. Think about all the different things. Like in 1918, what would the word Spanish have invoked?
Probably fear, conquer, because they were like conquistadors, all that type of the Spanish Inquisition type deal.
Right. Now, so no definitive ideas on where it originated from.
But then why do we call it Spanish flu? Shouldn't we, now we name viruses like from where they came from, such as Wuhan coronavirus, because it's in Wuhan, China. MERS, Middle East respiratory virus, SARS,
Right. So by summer, the more lethal type that was causing pneumonia, then death.
That's what's happening now. Dun, 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 and multiple organ failure.
Then the 3rd wave was in winter. And then by spring, it was all over. And most deaths occurred more for the 20 to 40-year-old ranges.
Right.
In the 2nd and 3rd wave, very unusual for mortality in this age range. Now, this source in Britannica says that only 5,500 or 550,000 Americans died. But they also say that most deaths were from the 2nd and 3rd waves. And other outbreaks of H1N1 occurred during 1920, but they were less devastating.
Okay.
Now, we're going to go to the CDC, since that's who everybody loves so much for their information on this, even though it's paid by the government.
Here's the deal. People want to believe the WHO and the CDC on the numbers on the coronavirus, but yeah, we can't even trust these mofos to actually report on the MMR vaccine data. Like, have we lost cognitive dissonance, y'all?
Ding, nailed it.
Come on, like, don't believe these people. I don't trust them. You should not trust them now either. Just because they're coming out with numbers on this virus means nothing. They have schemed, lied their way to do everything else. Now, people are thinking that that doesn't mean there's anybody. No. When they're coming out with numbers that are steadily rising at rates that seem too good to be true, it's probably because everybody's dropping like flies and dying like hotcakes.
Yeah. Okay. So the CDC, by the way, updated in 2019. Doesn't say anything more than that.
Okay.
4 sites now. All 4.
Right.
Now, CDC says 1918 to 1919. There's a lot of questions of origin and epidemiologic features and pathogenicity.
Yes.
That are still unanswered, according to CDC.
I'm going to check the chat right
Now, CDC confirms 1/3 of the world population is affected.
1/3. Much like the number of people who have traveled so far in Wuhan, China. And across China in general for the Chinese New Year, which was celebrated yesterday, but goes for week-long celebrations in China.
Which also happens to be 1/3 of the world population is exactly what Bill Gates says needs to die off in order for us to survive, which, fun side note, Bill Gates is the money behind the patent of the coronavirus.
Yeah, true.
So that's just fun side note. So CDC says that 1918 virus was the ancestor and parent to all 4 human influenza strains and swine H1N1 and H3N2 lines, including the extinct H2N2.
Oh. Extinct. So they can extinct some flu strains.
It says so.
Good to know.
On the CDC site, by the way.
From the CDC themselves.
Yes. So, I mean, unless they're, I don't know, putting their own foot in their mouth, which, you know, could be.
Could be.
Okay. But they do specifically say extinct strain. They also say that it only affected humans and it appeared to be avian-like, and showing that the avian-like influenzas actually don't change.
Oh. Okay, so bird flu. How do they explain the bird flu? Just saying. They don't change. Somehow that one mutated. Good to know.
I'm just reading what they have on their site. I'm just somebody researching some information.
Yeah, from the sources that we're told to look at.
Now we're going to go to the Smithsonian Institute magazine.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't have an update, but it was written January 12th of 2018.
Okay.
They claim 5% of the world's population died.
Okay.
Okay. That there was a higher death rate attributed to crowded military camps and urban environments, poor nutrition, and sanitation that was being suffered at wartime.
Which I could see that, you know, war doesn't necessarily create the best conditions. You know, our soldiers who are overseas right now have to deal with no showers, dirty conditions, you know, just really bad stuff. So, I mean, I could see that in 1918. Yeah.
Okay. And that most deaths were actually from pneumonias in lungs weakened from the flu.
Right. And they said, that so 500 million would be the 1/3 population,
Mm-hmm.
and it killed an estimated 20 to 50 million, but they don't.
Okay. Now, the second wave was more deadly. Now, according to the Smithsonian Institute magazine, the reason that the second wave was more deadly is because the mild cases of Spanish flu stayed home and got well.
Right.
Severe cases were crowded together in hospitals and camps, expediting the national death rates, but they never exceeded 20%. Now, they also say that there are studies showing that many of the flu deaths were actually aspirin poisoning or overdoses.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
As at this time in 1918, they believed and were giving large doses of 30 grams of aspirin a day to patients. 30 grams.
That's so much. Oh, that's
Okay,
so
now for any
It's
of
like
you who doesn't
500 Okay,
understand,
so 1,000 milligrams is a gram, you guys. So like two 500 milligram Tylenols would be 1 gram. So just think, it would be 2 times 30 Tylenol.
okay, so for anyone who
Or
doesn't understand, they were giving 30 grams. We know today that to remain within safe limitation, we cannot give more than 4 grams to an adult.
Yep, which is 4,000 milligrams.
4 grams
So when you-
versus 30. And they were not differentiating that 30 grams between child or adult or whatever, because back then they didn't really know about body weights and
No, because it goes back to medicine was done by folk medicine, what we talked about on Journey into Freedom. You
Right.
know, that whole episode about, folk medicine and folk healing and what people knew about how to cure disease.
now, fun side note.
Okay.
Aspirin overdose can account for many of the same symptoms, including the bleeding from the Spanish flu.
They also think it came from China.
Yes. So why didn't we call it the Chinese flu?
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. And why do all these diseases originate in China?
Now, according to the Smithsonian magazine, public health officials and law enforcement officers and politicians all had reasons to underplay the Spanish flu. The severity of it. This resulted in the loss of knowledge available as well as limited news coverage. They were afraid of looking weak to their enemies during times of war, that it might encourage the enemies to strike harder. They also wanted to avoid panic and keep public order.
Well, and I could see that too, because you're in this battle, you're in a world war, right? World War One. And you're trying to appear big bad about it, and you can't look like all your guys are sick. But really, it's a good tool, because if all your guys are sick and dying, you go throw those bodies at the enemy, and then they catch the flu, and then they die. And so it's good.
Right. Now,
That's what I would do if I was in war. Like, screw you guys, we're gonna get you sick.
Now check this out. Remember I said we were going to come back to how we actually know for sure that it was influenza A, H1N1.
Right.
Now, we find this out from Smithsonian.
Right.
In 2005, The 1918 flu strain was found in a body recovered from the permafrost of Alaska.
That's lovely.
That had everything they needed to know. That has linked it to influenza A, H1N1.
Right.
So that's where I gotten with that information before all of this started.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when you think about this, and I was trying to find the information that they actually had on Stanford University site, but they've taken most of the memoirs from the soldiers down. Okay. And I don't know why they did that. Yeah. So, okay, they talk about how, you know, it circled the globe. Most of humanity felt the effects of this virus. It spread through the following path of its human carriers along trade routes and shipping lines. Outbreaks swept through North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Brazil, and the South Pacific. In India, the mortality rate was extremely high at around 50 deaths from influenza per 1,000 people. The Great War, with its mass movements of men and armies aboard ships, probably aided in its rapid diffusion and attack. The origin of the deadly flu disease were unknown, but widely speculated upon. Some of the Allies thought the epidemic as a biological warfare tool of the Germans. Many thought it was a result of the trench warfare, the use of mustard gas. What? Okay, hold on. You just tried to like stop.
Mustard gas.
Mustard gas. They used
What was
mustard
they
gas
using mustard
in
gas for?
World War One. They used to like to smoke out the enemy and stuff, dude.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, okay.
And they said generated by the smoke and fumes of war. So they thought it was probably like, you know, like we got sick because we threw that thing off, you know. A national campaign began using the ready rhetoric of war to fight this new enemy of microscopic proportions. A study attempted to reason why the disease had began to be so devastating in certain localized regions. Looking at the climate, the weather, and the racial composition of cities, they found humidity to be linked with more severe epidemics as it fosters the dissemination of the bacteria. That's in quotes. It says, and that's the Committee on Atmosphere and Man, 1923. We'll go look that up. Meanwhile, new sciences of infectious agents were racing to come up with a vaccine or therapy to stop the epidemics. I'm tired of hearing that. They've been trying since 1918 to come up with some vaccines. Can we just shelf vaccines for now and try to treat this or keep our bodies healthy so we don't catch it? And just understand that being a human inevitably possibly involves some of these epidemic level situations. It says that the experiences that the origin of the influenza variant is not precisely known. It was originated in China. It's thought to have originated in China in a rare genetic shift of the influenza virus. The recombination of its surface proteins created a virus novel to almost everyone and a loss of herd immunity. Didn't need no vaccine. Didn't need no vaccine. Had some herd immunity without vaccine.
Interesting.
Okay. Right. So then they say, and it was a novel virus. So just like the novel coronavirus, this was a novel flu virus. Recently, the virus has been reconstructed from the tissue of a dead soldier. Didn't hear that one before.
Interesting.
And is now being genetically characterized. The name of the Spanish flu came from an early affliction and large mortalities in Spain, 1019, 1918, where it allegedly killed 8 million in May. Okay, about around 7/13/1918. However, a first wave of influenza appeared in the early spring of 1918 in Kansas and military camps throughout the U.S. Few noticed the epidemic in the midst of war. Wilson had just given his 14-point address. There were virtually no response or acknowledgement to the epidemics in March and April in the military camps. And it was unfortunate that no steps were taken to prepare the usual rouge de recrudescence of the virulent influenza strain in the winter. The lack of action was later criticized when the epidemic could not be ignored in the winter of 1918. These first epidemics at training camps were a sign of what was coming in an ever greater magnitude in the fall and winter of 1918 to the entire world. War brought the virus back to the U.S. for the second wave of the epidemic. It first arrived in Boston in the September of 1918 through the busy port with war shipments of machinery and supplies. The war also enabled the virus to spread and diffuse. Men across the nation were mobilizing to join the military and the cause. As they came together, they brought the virus with them and those they contacted. The virus killed almost 200,000 in October of 1918 alone. November 11th of 1918, the end of the war, enabled a resurgence. As people celebrated Armistice Day with parades and public parties, a complete disaster from a public health standpoint, a rebirth of an epidemic occurred in some cities. The flu that winter was beyond imagination as millions were infected and thousands died. Just as the war had affected the course of influenza, influenza affected the course of the war. Entire fleets were ill or diseased, and men were on the front were too sick to fight. The flu was devastating to both sides, killing more men than their own weapons could. With the military patients coming home from war and battle wounds and mustard gas burns, hospital facilities and staff were taxed to the limit. This created a shortage of physicians, especially in the civilian sector, as many had been lost for service with the military. Since the medical practitioners were away with the troops, only medical students were left to care for the sick. Third and fourth year classes were closed, and interns or nurses, and an article once noted that a depletion has been carried to such an extent that practitioners were brought to the near breaking point. The shortage was further confounded by the added loss of U.S. physicians to the epidemic. The U.S. Cross had to recruit more volunteers to contribute to the new cause at home of fighting the influenza epidemic. To respond with the fullest utilization of nurses, volunteers, and medical supplies, the Red Cross created a national committee on influenza. It was involved in both military and civilian sectors to mobilize all forces to fight Spanish influenza. In some areas of the U.S., nursing shortage was so acute that the Red Cross had to ask local business to have workers to have the day off if they volunteer in the hospitals at night. That came from the Deseret News, which Deseret is now known as Utah. Emergency hospitals were created to take in patients from the U.S. and those arriving sick from overseas. The pandemic affected everyone. 1/4 of the U.S. and 1/5 of the world was infected with the influenza, and it was impossible to escape from the illness. Even President Woodrow Wilson suffered from the flu in early 1919, negotiating the crucial Treaty of Versailles to end the World War. Those who were lucky enough to avoid infection had to deal with the public in health ordinances to restrain the spread of disease. Public health departments distributed gas masks to be worn in public. Stores could not hold sales. Funerals were limited to 15 minutes. What are you doing, Red? Are you texting or something? Can you turn that on, like, because we can hear that? What are you doing? Can you hear that though, Red? They say that funerals were limited to 15 minutes. And there were no sales in the store. Let's do that thing again. That's rude. Those who ignored the flu ordinances, summer towns required a signed certificate to enter, and railroads would not accept passengers without them. They made people have papers. Look, you guys, they've already done this once. They made people have papers. There you go. Finally. Yeah, sometimes when you turn it, it picks up the sound. Besides the lack of bodies piled up and the massive deaths of the epidemic ensued, besides the basic lack of healthcare workers and medical supplies, there was a shortage of coffins, morticians, and grave diggers. The conditions of 1918 were not so far removed from the Black Death in the era of the bubonic plague in the Middle Ages. The 1918-19 deadly influenza pandemic erupted during the final stages of World War I. Nations were already attempting to deal with the effects and the cost of war. Propaganda campaigns and war restrictions and rations had been implemented by governments. Nationalism pervaded as people accepted government authority. This allowed the public health departments to easily step in and implement their restrictive measures. The war also gave science a greater importance as governments relied on scientists now armed with the new germ theory and the development of antiseptic surgery. Look, they just finally used some ways to be clean in surgery in 1918. Let's not trust these people.
Well, if you had been tuned into Journey for the last 2 episodes, we kind of talked about that.
We did actually.
You have been, but I mean, just in general, like the other people out there.
No, yeah, absolutely, because I was there. But yeah, no, you're right. And they say that their new technologies could preserve the men on the front and ultimately save the world. These conditions, created by World War I, together with the current social attitudes and ideas, led to relatively calm response of the public and application for scientific ideas. Led to their loss of freedom and strict measures during the war as they submitted to the needs of the nation ahead of their personal needs. Y'all, never give up personal freedom. Never. It's not good because if they take it away from one of us and we all agree to have it taken, then no one has freedom.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We can't do that. They said they had accepted the limitations placed with rationing and drafting. The responses of public health officials reflected the new allegiance to science and the wartime society. Listen, y'all, this is when they started this. The medical and scientific communities had developed new theories and applied them to prevention, diagnostic, and the treatment of influenza patients.
Ain't that cute?
Yeah, look at the mortality in Kansas. I don't know if we can see this. I'm going to turn the light down way low. Oh, hold on. Epidemic. See, look at that spike right there. That's literally like the mortality stats. It's a big spike on the graph.
Yeah.
So they say that that was in Kansas. The graph it illustrates the severity of the epidemic through the Census Bureau. Port areas saw the earliest cases of influenza, which was brought over by boat. Major cities and transportation centers were next on the path. This is why coronavirus is important, that statement right there. Because now we have trains and planes and buses and faster ways of travel to bring the virus here. There have been 3 billion people, billion with a B, traveling for Chinese New Year, if you listen to Clarity After Dark last night. 3 billion traveled for this Chinese New Year. And now we're at the end of Chinese New Year. And they've already traveled all over the world and now they're going home and people are popping up days after. Just like in the event 201, they talk about, in their little fake news clips, they're like, because it's literally pretend, not like fake news, like the term fake news, but like pretend news clips they made. We're talking about how, when people are returning home, they're starting to get symptoms a few days after returning home, which is exactly what's happening now. We don't realize how many flights
because they already know. They already know what it's going to do because they created it.
Right.
Now, what they're telling us, because they journey on my Journey into Freedom Facebook page, they censor the shit out of my information that says that they created it and that they have the patent, because they say that the strain that is running wild right now is not the same strain that they have the patent on. Now, here's my confusion. You made the virus. It's man-made. It didn't exist before you made it. Now there is some sort of a mutation of what you made running around in the quote-unquote wild. Right. Where'd it come from then? It didn't just invent itself. It's a mutation of what you made. So either you mutated it and then released it, or you released it and then it mutated, or it escaped and mutated, or you mutated it and it escaped. Either way, you still made it. It's still man-made. There was still a patent. That doesn't change the fact that this is a man-made made biological fucking weapon.
Right.
And it's being used on us. And they suspect that it's probably going to affect 1/3 of the world's population.
Well, yeah. I mean, yesterday, at the beginning of yesterday, the 24th, if you look at the headlines on like watchers.news, the death toll was only at 26 with 830 infected. We are now at over 2019 cases with 56 dead, and it's the 25th. It's the 26th in China. But think about that. Seriously. Those are explosive numbers.
Very.
Explosive. To the point where I'm just concerned. People are saying, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's just like a cold. Does this look like a cold? If we want to believe the numbers. Okay, let's say you don't want to believe the numbers. Well, then I guess not. But if you want to just think about the numbers, that's what's concerning me. Let's see. Because Steve is still on. I guess I'm gonna look at the B&O News
because
page, because they're tracking the coronavirus. So we're gonna go look at that.
I mean, I understand that they're saying it's mutation,
I'm gonna go look at
but
that right now.
the mutation has to have an origination.
News.
The
They have a whole
original strain.
And we're gonna show the people what it looks like.
Okay, because a mutation of a disease is not like we just did something. It's like a copy of a copy of a copy. It gets stronger, actually, as it mutates a lot of times. So,
are you still talking, Red?
Yeah, I'm talking. Hello.
Red?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Why can't you?
So I hope that
Hold on.
my sound is working. Hold on.
Yeah, no, I'm still here.
Sure. I can't hear you at all. That's so weird. Okay,
it muted my microphone.
For a second. Oh, look, we see a little pyramid.
Stop it, you stupid
That's
thing.
cool. I see your hand. Little hand.
There.
I can't hear you yet.
It muted my microphone.
Because my sound just like completely went out. Maybe it's because it was muted or something.
No.
There we go. Maybe because I had something muted or something. I don't know.
I don't know. What'd you do?
I don't know. I guess I muted myself.
Yeah, I think maybe. But I could hear you the whole time.
I'm pretty sure you could. But see, this is why, live is fun. And sometimes you just got to figure out your settings. So we're going to look at this tracking coronavirus map data and more. Okay. Now, here it is. So this is from B&O News. We're going to scroll up to the top real quick. They're acting like it doesn't want to let me scroll. All right. So here are the specs on it from what they're telling us right now. The table below shows the confirmed cases of coronavirus 29 nCoV in China and other countries. To see a distribution map and timeline, scroll down. There are currently 2,027 confirmed cases worldwide, including 56 fatalities. So here we've got, as we scroll down, we've got last updated the 26th of January 2020 at 12:09 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So with that, we've got Hubei province, including Wuhan. So Hubei province is where Wuhan is. They distribute their places by provinces besides the towns. So Hubei province has 1,052 cases, 52 deaths, 129 serious or critical. Guangdong province, 98 cases, 18 serious, 5 critical. Zhejiang province, 104, 14 serious, no deaths. Hunan province, no deaths, 20 serious. And Hui province, 60 cases, all stable. So that's interesting that they're all stable in that province, but there's 60 people.
Right.
Shanghai, 40 people, 1 death, 1 critical. Henan province, 83, 1 death, 13 serious. Sichuan province, 44, no deaths, 3 critical. It goes on to lesser numbers to where you get down to Ningxia region, 3, Hebei province, 13, Gansu province, and then Macau, which is like a little island. And then Taiwan and Hong Kong, which aren't technically, I think Hong Kong is technically mainland, but it's on like the coast. And then, like I said, Macau is a little island owned by them. Internationally, we have Thailand cases, Singapore, France, Malaysia, Japan, South Korea, United States, Vietnam, Nepal, and Australia. Here's the map of all the cases plotted out. Looks a little creepy. Is there another confirmed one in the United States? Who's the third confirmed? Did I just say no? I said 2. Why did they show 3 on this map? Let's go see what they got going on. Oh, that's Toronto. Okay, first confirmed case in Canada. I was like, why does it look like there's 3 in North America? All right, then, so the last update we have is in GMT time, was at 5:08, 3 new cases in Liaoning province, China.
Okay.
So, I mean, let's see what time it is right now. UTC. Because that'll give us a good idea to understand. Because see, right now, they're always kind of like a day and a half ahead. It's 5:28. So that just came out 20 minutes ago.
Right.
So 4:37 before that, 3 new cases in Beijing. 3:07, 3 new cases in Hainan province. 2:48, 3 new cases in Macau. And this is all GMT time. Because it's already Sunday there. Let's go see current China time. Because I don't know what time it is in China. Time in China.
But early.
No, it's 1:29 p.m.
Mm.
So it's afternoon. So we should start hearing probably some more information now. Kitty. Now we're going to see kitty shenanigans. Oh, dang, where'd the kitty go?
Up.
I figured that. I was like, now we get to see kitty shenanigans. We never get to see that before.
That was me.
So we're going to start hearing some more. I would assume we'd start hearing some more information here. Okay, now 2014, they put out an article from Medical News Today, right? So I'm going to stop this share really quick so I can read this article. Okay. Why was the 1918 flu pandemic so deadly? Research offers new clue. In 1918, as one global devastation in the shape of World War I came to an end, people around the world found themselves facing another enemy, pandemic flu. The virus killed more than 50 million people, 3 times the number that fell in the Great War, and did this so much faster than any other illness recorded in history. But why was that particular pandemic so severe? These questions have dogged scientists ever since. Now, a new study led by the University of Arizona may have solved the mystery. Michael Worrelby, a professor at UA College's Science Development Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, and colleagues described their findings in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. They hope the study not offer some new clues about the deadliness of 1918 pandemic, but will hopefully improve strategies for vaccination, womp womp, and pandemic prevention. If our model is correct, then current medical interventions, especially antibiotics and vaccines against several pneumonia-causing bacteria, could be expectedly dramatically reduce mortality if we were faced today with a similar set of pandemic ingredients. Now, can we find out how many of these people actually had the pneumonia vaccine in China and see if they still got, this pandemic strain? Because I'd like to know, because I'm sure they did. Okay, I'm sure they did. It's been a huge question whether something about that situation, whether we should expect the same thing to happen tomorrow. Usually the human influenza A virus is deadlier to infants and the elderly, but in 1918, the strain killed many people in their 20s and 30s. Listen, you guys, that's the strain that they vaccinate for now in your flu shot is influenza A. When they take that swab, they're looking for influenza A or influenza B, and they say right here, human influenza A is deadlier to infants and the elderly, but in 1918, the strain killed many people in their 20s and 30s. They said it basically the same thing in Red's articles, but I think that's the better way to say it so that it clicks in people's heads. For their investigation, the researchers developed an unprecedentedly accurate molecular clock, a technique that looks in the rate in which mutations build up in given stretches of DNA over time. Evolutionary biologists use molecular clocks to reconstruct family trees, follow lineage splitting, and find common ancestors of different strains of viruses of other organisms. Professor Worrelby and his team used a molecular clock to reconstruct the origins of the 1918 pandemic virus. The classic swine flu and the post-pandemic seasonal H1N1 virus lineage that circulated between 1918 and 1957. Womp womp.
Yeah.
Genetic material from bird flu virus picked up just before 1918. They found that a human H1 virus had been circulating among humans since around 1900, picked up genetic material from bird flu virus just before 1918, and became this deadly pandemic strain. Exposure to previous strains of flu virus does offer some protection to new strains. That's because the immune system, look, you don't need a vaccine, y'all. Listen to what these people are telling you. Okay, this is how they try to suck you into vaccination. But when you think about it, if you're exposed to the flu and catch the flu, it just said that you will be protected from new strains, just like you don't need a prophylactic.
Right.
Because the immune system reacts to proteins on the surface of the virus and makes antibodies that are summoned the next time a similar virus tries to infect the body. They admit vaccines reduce your immune system. This here right says if you catch it, your body will make its own antibodies. So why not have a strong body so that you have immunity?
Right.
Right.
Right, because you're not supposed to believe that you can get immunity that way.
You're right. That is true. But the further away the new strain is genetically from the ones the body has been previously exposed to, the more different the surface proteins, the less effective the antibodies, and the more likely that the infection will take hold. This is what authors suggest happened to the young adults in the 1918 pandemic. In their childhood, around 1880 to 1900, they were exposed to the H3N8 virus that was circulating in population. This virus had surface proteins that were very different from those of H1N1 pandemic strain. Their immune systems would have had made antibodies, but they would have been ineffective against H1N1 virus. But people born either before or after those decades would have been exposed to a virus much like the 1918 one, and their immune systems thus better equipped to fight it. Listen, no vaccines necessary. Do exposure people, human beings living. And some people do die, and I get that, and that's really sad, and we should try to maybe find things that can help, but vaccines aren't it, I'll tell you what. We believe that the mismatch between antibodies trained to H3 virus protein and the H1 protein of the 1918 virus might have resulted in the heightened mortality in the age group that happened to be in their late 20s in the early pandemic. Their finding may help explain the patterns of mortality in between seasonal flu and the deadly H5N1 and H7N9 bird flu viruses. The author suggests perhaps immunization strategies that mimic often impressive production that early childhood exposure provides could dramatically reduce deaths from seasonal and new flu strains. Let me go
Did
one.
you just say early childhood provides?
Yeah, hold on. Are you ready? Because I'm gonna go back because the author suggests perhaps immunization strategies that mimic the often impressive protection that early childhood exposure provides.
So leave the children alone.
Leave the kids alone. Stop injecting these kids. Let kids catch diseases naturally as God intended, y'all, because then you create immunity. I'm saving this one. This one's a good article. This came up when you just put in like swine flu, like a Google, this is so good. So good. Okay, so in February 2014, Professor Worrelby and colleagues began challenging conventional wisdom about flu outbreaks. When the journal Nature, they reported the most comprehensive analysis to date about the evolutionary relationships of flu virus across different host species over time. Among other things, they challenged the view that wild birds are a major reservoir for the bird flu virus. And instead of spilling over from wild birds to domestic birds, they say the more likely scenario is the other way around, that new strains jump from domestic to wild birds. Which makes more sense to me because the domestic birds 9 times out of 10 nowadays are being vaccinated to hell and back, given all these antibiotics at birth, dipping the beak in antibiotics, giving them shots of this or that, So that's the end of the article from Medical News Today. Why was the 1918 flu pandemic so deadly? That is the name of the article. It makes you really wonder because that article is basically a study that they did out of the University of Arizona that says they want to mimic childhood exposure. Why would you?
So why are you taking away the childhood exposure?
Right. If that is the key to immunity, why would you take that away?
Right.
So they talked about the Spanish flu, the killer that still stalks us. This was done in 2018, the 100-year anniversary of this. They talked about on September 11th, 1918. Oh, isn't this cute? Don't you like how this story starts?
Oh, right.
Lloyd George, riding high on the news of the Allied successes, arrived in Manchester to be presented with the keys to the city. Female munitions workers and soldiers home on furlough cheered his passage, and from Piccadilly train station to Albert Square. But later that evening, he developed a sore throat, fever, and collapsed. He spent the next 10 days confined to a sickbed at Manchester Town Hall, too ill to move and with a respirator to aid his breathing. Newspapers, including the Manchester Guardian, underplayed the severity of his condition for fear that presenting the Germans with a propaganda coup, but according to his valet, it had been touch and go. Lloyd George, age 55, survived, but others were not so lucky in an area before antibiotics and vaccines. Spanish influenza, so-called, because neutral Spain was one of the few countries where correspondents were free to report on the outbreak. We now know why. There's our answer, Red.
Yep.
So this makes sense because the Spaniards actually allowed for free press. Shocking. So they say the Cleveland claimed the lives of nearly 250,000 Britons. The cruelly for a nation that had seen the flower of British male youth mowed down by German guns. The majority were adults ages 20 to 40. The mortality was the inverse of most flu seasons, where deaths fall most heavily on the elderly and under fives. Global death toll was inconceivable, with the most recent estimates between 50 and 100 million people. We haven't heard that number yet. Adjusting for population growth, That is equivalent to 200 million to 425 million people. That's staggering. People need to realize, like, even if this is propaganda, man-made, whatever, something that can take out 500 million people is something to pay attention to. Unlike now, where reports of a new bird flu outbreaks in Southeast Asia are closely monitored by the WHO, there was no early warning system. When it was reported in May 1918 that King Alfonso VIII was ill in Madrid, or the 13th, was ill in Madrid, most people dismissed the Spanish flu as a joke. The main advice was to gargle with salt water and isolate yourself till the fever had passed. However, these rules did not apply to munitions workers who were urged to carry on for the sake of the war effort. Okay, so they said mortality rates across Europe were as followed. 1 million in Germany, 73%. Italy, 172% total deaths. And then the increase, they probably had about 250,000 deaths normally. This increased it to over 800,000. France, 66%, and they had about 600,000 deaths. Spain, 87%, with about 700,000 deaths. England and Wales, 400,000 deaths. Bulgaria, Finland, the Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland had it like really high, 100%, death increase rates, where it just like outweighed of how much they actually had people die. Where Denmark had the lowest. So in other 20th century epidemics such as HIV/AIDS, Africans and Asians suffered proportionately more than Europeans and North Americans. Thus, while the average case mortality in the developed world was about 2%, in India, where 18.5 million people perished, it was 6%. And in Egypt, where 138,000 died, it was 10%. In isolated regions with virgin populations with no immunity to flu, the impact was truly astonishing. In Western Samoa, for example, a quarter of the population was wiped out. By contrast, American Samoa recorded no casualties. The severity of the pandemic and the peculiar death pattern puzzle to scientists to this day. Few epidemiologists believe that it started in Spain, pointing to pre-pandemic waves in Copenhagen and northern European cities in the summer of 1918. Where the virus first leapt from birds or mammals is more perplexing. Some scientists favoring a Kansas point of origin and others northern France or China.
Interesting.
Right, because we know there's like that epidemiology place in like St. Louis, Missouri. Kansas City
Right.
was on the other side. And they didn't say Kansas City, Kansas, or Missouri. They said they think Kansas, but did something like that exist then? Right? Good. You know what I mean? Was the military holding stuff like that in small test tubes then? I don't know. It'd probably be a more crude version of what we have now, but okay. So Jeffrey Tolbenberger, a molecular pathologist at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, has been studying the Spanish flu virus for 30 years. In the late 1990s, he succeeded in retrieving fragments of viral RNA stored from pathology specimens taken from U.S. soldiers who had died of flu at U.S. Army camps in 1918, and the Inuit woman who was buried on the beach in Alaska where the permafrost had preserved her lung tissue from decay. That's the woman. Using modern, and here's the guy who did it. Using modern molecular techniques, Tolbenberger and his colleague Anne Reed amplified fragments and in 2005 published the virus's genetic sequence. Their findings was a shock. Previously, epidemiologists observed that flu pandemics were preceded or followed by outbreaks of influenza-like illnesses in dogs, cats, and horses. It was also known that from time to time, viruses could infect pigs and, of course, humans, that wild flu viruses circulated in migratory waterfowl. However, Tolbenberger analyzed the genome of the Spanish flu, and he found that most of its genes were derived from a bird flu virus. Tolbenberger considered H1N1 virus so avian-like that he could not discount the possibility that it had transmitted directly from birds to humans in 1918 and perhaps as early as 1916. Tobenberger's discovery raised the terrifying possibility that in the future, some other avian influenza virus like the H5N1 bird flu circulating in Southeast Asia or the H7N9 currently causing sporadic human infections in China might suddenly acquire the ability to trigger a similarly devastating pandemic. It also begged the question, why bring the Spanish flu back to life? And what if the virus escaped the laboratory and fell into the hands of terrorists? Good question, right? I mean, honestly, isn't that a good question? Why would you think this is cute to bring back? Like, why do these scientists like basically nut over the fact that they can like create old viruses and bring them back to life? Like, why does that get your goat? I think that should be extinct and dead because we don't know how to function with it. And I think obviously it got out because according to the last article that we read, it is the H1N1. So they know
Right.
that. So you guys brought it back and then it infected everybody. Good job. Good job. Good job. They said Tobenberger and other scientists with access to the freezer containing the virus are screened by the FBI and must wear double gloves, a respirator, and full body suit, like the ones worn by medical workers during the West African Ebola epidemic. They must submit
Oh.
an iris scan. It's really the equivalent to top secret clearance. That makes me feel better when there's like CIA black site prisons.
No,
No, it
that
just
makes me feel worse.
right.
That makes me feel more like, and I said this to you earlier, but I haven't said it on air. My point with the Spanish flu is its origin, where it came from, they still don't know, but it's H1N1, which we were told comes from the swine, but yet back in 1918, was it still coming from the swine? Or was this some man-made shit that you done unleashed that went wild hog crazy and killed a bunch of people, and now you have it progressing in the wild because you never completely eradicated it like you said you did?
Right. That is, you're right. Okay, because I'm just having a problem with them just being so nonchalant about it. Okay. They said that continued experimentation is necessary for the development of vaccines and other medical interventions. In mice, the H1N1 Spanish flu is extremely virulent. Look, they just admitted it. It's the Spanish flu, y'all. Y'all been taking Spanish flu shots. I want some reparations on that. They need to quit playing with the people and acting like influenza A isn't H1N1 and isn't the Spanish flu.
Because it is, y'all.
It is.
They've been injecting you with the Spanish flu, and then you want to know why it's only 6% effective for the flu strain that is currently active, because we don't have what they had in 2008, or I'm sorry, 1918, and we don't have what they had in 2006 to 2008 either.
Yeah. So they're saying that by targeting, it's virulent, generating 39,000 times more virus.
Which, by the way,
hold on.
I would also like to fun side note, Scarlett.
Yeah,
we were told when it appeared in 2006 that it was fucking new.
You're right, though. We were told this is a new flu. It's the swine flu. No, this is renamed Spanish flu. I am not amused. I feel some sort of way about it. Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to say something though, so the people can see you, so they see your air.
No, that's all they need to know. Like, it goes with everything that we have traced the government to in any of our shows, in any of the projects that they do, from Project Blue Book to Project Monarch to Project Artichoke to Project MK Ultra to Project Goldfish to Project Fishbowl to you fucking name it. It's the same thing under a different name.
Yeah, so they say, but science, okay, so they said 39,000 times more generating virus particles. And they said compared to the coronavirus, compared to this, is 7.75 times more. So let's see, 39,000 times 7.75, because that's the real number of the day. Times 7.75, 302,250 times more virulent. Do you really want to play with that? What you got? Echinacea?
Yes.
Okay. Look, echinacea, y'all.
Okay. Why am I showing you echinacea? Immune booster. Want to know how to avoid coronavirus? Immune booster.
Hold on, I'm trying to find. I hear Steve playing somewhere from Agenda Free TV. He's also on the network.
Other things that boost your immune system that can help you avoid picking up a virus or an illness. Echinacea, golden seal, elderberry, which has proven 95.8% effective against every influenza strain up to and including H1N1 that it has been put up against. Okay, plus multiple other illnesses that they've tested against, because elderberry actually has tests, placebo tests, to prove its effectiveness, as where vaccines don't.
That's true.
Just saying.
True story, Red.
Okay, so I'd like to add that. And so you could put some elderberry into your diet. You could put echinacea into your diet. You can put golden seal into your diet. You can up your vitamin C. You can up your fluids. What I mean by upping your fluids isn't more Coca-Cola either. It isn't more sugary, crappy shit either. I mean some more water, some more fruit juices, some more vegetable juices, some milk even. And I don't mean some crappy milk that is like 1% watered down bullshit. Okay? Because let me tell you something about your milk. 1% skim milk, 2%. And you can ask Alicia because she's I'm sorry. You can ask Scarlett because she is now working on a dairy farm.
Right.
When we are talking about 1%, 2% skim milk, guess what that is, y'all?
Water.
That's your whole milk with how much water is added to it. So basically, when they say it's 1%, you only got 1% of milk. The rest of what you paying for is water.
Farmer W, that's what we'll call him on the show. Farmer W says that his milk comes out at 8% milk fat. So whole milk is 4%, and 2%, 1% skim, which is 0. So you kind of do the math with that. If milk out of the cow's teat is 8%. That's all.
So even in the highest content that they allow you by law in the grocery store that you're buying is already depleted by 4%.
Right.
Already depleted. The whole milk is already depleted by 4%. Now, when you get into your others, like I said, you're paying for water and 1% milk.
Right.
And 1% or 2% or skim milk, which is you're basically paying for some color on your water. Okay, so drink a little milk, goat's milk, almond milk, coconut milk. Doesn't just have to be cow's milk either.
No.
If you can find true farmers like cow's milk, go for it.
Weston A. Price Foundation has a raw milk directory that people can utilize and allow and find a place locally in one of the 50 states. There should be a Weston A. Price chapter leader in every state, in just about every area. And you can find local farms who have registered. And there's a big list. Like even in the state of Colorado where Red is, there's probably
absolutely
on that list. So there's somewhere you can go if you really want to get it.
Yeah.
They'll
now,
tell you
for those of you
on the website for what each state would need, because certain states you have to bring your own container. Certain states it's only sold for pets, like pet milk. It depends on how you have to go about it in your state. Please follow all your localities, laws, and regulations concerning raw milk. Thank you.
Now, that being said, from the homestead side of life, for those wanting to stay out of the system, find your local homesteaders, find out what they have, find out how you can trade and barter. That is completely legal no matter what state you live
Right.
in. That means when I say trade and barter, is completely acceptable trade and barter. That does not mean money. You can't legally exchange money for raw milk. But what you can do is legally exchange, say, materials for building for raw milk. In a legal state like where I am, you could give marijuana as a legal tender for trade for raw milk.
I highly support that. It was in the Constitution to trade hemp so that you could use hemp.
Right. Yes, it is here in Colorado. Yes, it is. And other things, hemp, marijuana, other herbs, spices, meat, eggs, anything of that nature. A lot of your homesteaders too will let you buy in to a goat or a cow on the homestead, which then also keeps you out of the big system and just keeps you within your locality system. And what that means is rather than going and paying all those fees and going through all that stuff, you can kind of cross them out by owning a part of your own stock, which means like a goat, for instance, doesn't actually belong to you, but you paid, say, someone like me $25 to own a portion of that goat, which means that you bought into that goat, which means you are allotted raw milk from something that you have purchased into. So there are ways to go around finding it without being in the big crap. And the only reason I say that is because there's a lot of us out here who are trying to still try to do away with that kind of monitoring, that kind of suppression of our rights. Because taking away our ability to give to our community or trade within our community or sell within our community our raw product is bullshit.
Right.
That is bullshit.
It's true though.
Okay. And not that I want to point fingers, but there was a particular president that decided all of a sudden that, like, say, growing vegetables and shit was no longer really allowed.
Right.
And along with that meant that my ability to sell my neighbor raw milk for a couple of dollars a quart went away. And now there's all these rules and regulations and all these things that you've got to go through. And cleanliness is understandable. But then again, when you go backward, you know, when we had the milkman and his glass jars and delivering it to your front door and refilling your glass jars, that is no more or less clean than what any other homesteader or private farm is offering.
That's true.
Okay. We strayed away from that and have gotten into this like mentality of, and I hate to bring it up, but this is part of health. This is part of wellness. This is part of not getting sick. Okay. Because something they've like brainwashed us out of is we don't need the poor people. We don't need the middle class. We don't need these people. It's okay. They're expendable.
Yes, but the lower classes are expendable. They're not as worthy
Right.
in the mix. You know, even
Now,
at this event 201, they kind of just talked about it like for the greater good. They didn't talk about individuals or impacts it would make on families or anything of that sort.
right. So,
It's about maintaining order and control.
right. Now, this being stated, right, because they don't, because they don't care about the family. But now, when they step in and they start taking these things away, like, okay, part of staying healthy is knowing what you're putting into your body. And what they've done with us, with our food and our milk and our eggs and everything of this nature, is they very much made us believe like, if it doesn't go through all this stuff before we buy it and we walk into a store and take it off of a shelf, it's no good for you.
Right.
Okay. They've made us believe that we are expendable in the picture. Okay. And they've made others believe that. And my thing is this, okay, Mr. Rich Guy, but what happens when we're not here anymore? What happens when there's no farmers?
Not your little robots anymore and your little workhorses.
What happens when there's no farmers?
Right.
You don't eat, Mr. Rich Guy. Okay, and no offense, Mr. President Trump, you're a rich man. I'm not saying that you're one of the ones saying get rid of the middle class, because I actually think that you're one of the ones trying to help them.
Right.
The most, especially the farmers, because I think that you are one of the rich men that realize, one very profound fact. If the farmers aren't there, guess who has to do it, or we don't eat? Do you see Trump outside spreading some manure and planting some fields? Because I don't.
I don't. I definitely don't. I really don't.
Okay. Now, do I find it humorous to think of our president in some overall build with his little thing being like, dun 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 dun? Yes, I find that humorous as fuck, and I would love to see it. But the reality is, I know his rich ass is rich because he don't want to do that shit.
Yep.
Okay. Now, another thing, do you see our rich ass president strolling around in some overalls with his little fish hay fork feeding some livestock?
No.
Because I don't see him butchering out his own meat.
Nope.
You see that happening? Oh, what about the Rockefellers? You see them doing that?
Nope.
Me either. I don't see these very rich people being very capable of survival very long once they've ridded the world of the useless.
Well, so-called useless.
Right. Well, you missed the air quotes because you had your head down.
Oh, yeah, so-called useless.
Okay, so, another thing, you like to eat out, Mr. President.
Right.
You like McDonald's apparently a whole lot.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, you like you some McDonald's, G.
Yeah.
What's she gonna do when there's no McDonald's workers?
Yeah, or McDonald's distribution stops.
Or yeah, are you going to work at McDonald's?
I really think about this and talk about this real quick that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, which is the implication that actually happens to trade, travel, food distribution, if something actually does happen, like the coronavirus spreads like wildfire here, okay? Because number one, trucks are gonna stop moving. It could get to a point where people couldn't even go to work anymore. I mean, it could get that serious. It could get serious to the point where people could not be able to go to the store. Grocery shelves could be empty because certain areas are in quarantine. I mean, I just see so many issues with that. So many issues with that. That we're going to have a breakdown of society because we've never had to deal with anything like that. Nobody in the modern age has been quarantined in their homes, or the people that they're coming in contact with, because we've read AB 99 recently. So we know that New York has been trying to do things like, basically capture all the people, and, if they're spreaders or come in contact with somebody who has a communicable disease, they can detain you indefinitely, basically. this is what we need to worry about with the spread of the Wuhan coronavirus, is that states and places put in pandemic level, of which they claim U.S. Title Code 8 and 42 gives them the right to detain us for communicable diseases and the spread of communicable disease. So
Right,
that's
right.
what I'm concerned about when they shut down people from going on the highways and leaving towns and cities, because now it's infected, or they build special hospitals, or we could see medical FEMA camps, FEMA tent cities for the infirmed. That's the main thing I think I'm concerned about. I see an article that has been even revised. That article you posted earlier today about China coronavirus could have the same death rate as Spanish flu outbreak in UK.
Uh-huh.
So it says, editors note, the article was updated on January 24th to include context that the potential 1 to 2% death rate of the coronavirus would be comparable to the death rate of Spanish flu in the UK specifically, rather than globally, where the death threat is thought to be higher.
Interesting.
Isn't it? China's deadly coronavirus may have the same death rate as Spanish flu, an expert has warned. While this is in the early stages of the disease, deaths were up from the new virus rose to 17 on Wednesday. Now by Saturday, it's actually Sunday. So Sunday, we're up to 56. Okay. With hundreds of cases now confirmed. Now we have 2,000 plus cases confirmed. With increasing fears of widespread contagion, the previously unknown flu-like coronavirus strain is believed to emerge in an animal market in central Wuhan City, with cases detected as far away as the US. Professor Neil Ferguson from Imperial College London said the current rate of disease could be comparable to the rate of the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 is widely regarded as the deadliest in history and is believed to have infected around 500 million people worldwide, killing between 20 and 50 million. In the UK, it's thought around 228,000 people died of Spanish flu from around 10 million people who were thought to have been infected, a death rate around 2%. Chinese officials have confirmed 440 cases of the new coronavirus strain 2019 nCoV so far, with 17 deaths. Based on existing data, the disease is said to have a 2% death rate. That means for every 50 people who will catch the infection, 1 will statistically die. Remember that the information that I found from the virologist guide says that it's 7.75 times more likely to catch than Spanish flu. So if you really just think about that, only at a 2% death rate, and they said this is 7 times more, 1 out of every 50 would die. So what would it be if it's 7-fold higher? Would that be 1 in 5? 1 in 2?
Right.
Okay, so that's really concerning. To put this in context, around every 1,000 who develop, 1 in 1,000 who develop flu die, giving it a death rate of 0.1%. So they're trying to make you take shots for 0.1% death percentage. Just saying.
Right.
Just because they admit that here. Death rate is different from the death toll. For example, if 100 people caught the infection and the death rate was 2%, the death toll would be 2. Whereas if 100 people became ill, 20 would die. The total numbers of deaths comes down to the fatality rate and how many people catch the virus. This 2019 nCoV's death rate would be 2%, similar to Spanish flu. Professor Neil Ferguson from Imperial College London said. Professor Peter Horby from the University of Oxford pointed out that fatality estimations are based on clinical data around hospital cases. How much clinical data are they getting from hospital cases in Wuhan, China? Okay, out of those in hospital, 15 to 20% of the cases are severe, needing ventilation help. Coronavirus, right, areas of class are common, causing everything from the common cold to epidemics like severe acute respiratory syndrome. See, that's how they need to be telling people. Instead of just acting like coronavirus causes cold-like symptoms, they need to be saying coronaviruses are a spectrum from ranging to the mild to deadly outbreak level. This is why I don't think people should take their eye off of this or think that it's not coming for them, because it's exactly what they want you to think so they can kill you. Okay, so they say that
Right.
nCoV has thought to originated in animals before jumping, air quotes, to humans. Novel viruses spread much faster because we have no immunity, which means it's never been seen in humans before. Fatalities occurring as a result of pneumonia, which comes about when the respiratory infection causes the alveoli, air sacs in the lungs, to become inflamed and filled with pus, according to the American Lung Association. The lungs then struggle to draw in air, resulting in reduced oxygen in the bloodstream. Without treatment, the deaths are inevitable, says the charity Medicine Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. When death occurs because of asphyxiation. The CDC has warned there's no specific treatment for coronavirus. If the infection triggers pneumonia, doctors work to combat the complication. When a virus is to blame, like the 2019 nCoV, pneumonia may be treated via antiviral medication. Yet Professor Horby said no, there's no effective antiviral. Most pneumonia is bacterial. These infections tend to respond to antibiotics. With viral pneumonia, care is supportive, Horby said. nCoV is not the first coronavirus that's got people panicked. SARS made headlines in the early 2000s after 774 people died across dozens of countries, mainly in Asia, of which some people claim, hundreds of thousands of people died during SARS, that the Chinese government lied and kept it secret. SARS was nearly universally severe. Most cases in China were described as mild. We're not sure what that means. What is the coronavirus 2019 nCoV? The city of Wuhan is the central center of the outbreak, which likely originated from infected animals at a market. Those who initially felt ill worked at or visited the market. China's National Health Commission confirmed that the virus can spread person to person, with patients in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. China's National Health Commission confirmed that cases have also arisen in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the US. Professor Ferguson claims Wuhan likely has around 4,000 cases. Now that number has been reported somewhere up into the nurse yesterday who made the video, that we don't know if it's real or not, but she claims 90,000 are dead and millions are infected. They say, like other strains of coronavirus, 29 nCoV typically starts with flu-like symptoms, including fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties. 6 coronaviruses are known to infect people, with this strain being the 7th. They say pathogens triggered mild to moderate upper respiratory tract infections like the common cold. In rarer cases, coronaviruses lead to lower respiratory tract infections, such as pneumonia or bronchitis. They tend to occur in babies or the elderly, with those with weak immune systems. Coronaviruses are spread via coughing, sneezing, shaking hands, or touching a contaminated object. The virus enters the body if contaminated hands touch the eyes, nose, or mouth. In rare cases, fecal contamination is to blame. U.S. Health, which would mean that they'd have to be shedding the disease too in their feces. And if that's the case, you might have a lot of. We haven't heard that. I haven't heard that in all the research I've done hearing it could come from fecal material. That's really interesting. U.S. health officials are working on a vaccine. It'll be months before the first stage of trials and more than a year than one is available to the public. The WHO advises people to avoid unprotected contact with live animals, thoroughly cook meat and eggs, and stay away from those with flu-like symptoms. Okay. I mean, they've been trying to run this for a long time.
Right.
A long time. It's just something to think about. They've been trying to get everybody to get, and they do have a article from the NIH that talks about inhibitory effect of silver nanomaterials in coronavirus. So they do say in this article that you can use for certain coronavirus
Mhm.
colloidal silver, and that they use like silver nanowires to like actually zap the viruses, and it killed the viruses during their tests. So everybody, I suggest getting some silver, getting some elderberry, getting echinacea like Red showed, multiple immune supporting
Garlic,
garlic,
lemon,
yep.
oil of oregano.
Yeah,
Echinacea, golden seal, elderberry, vitamin C, up your fluids, keep your diet healthy, stay out of the public. And here is key factor number 1. If you're sick, stay the fuck at home.
amen.
All right? You feel sick, stay at home. It doesn't mean go to the store. It doesn't mean go to the bank. It doesn't mean go to work. It doesn't mean go over to the neighbors. It means stay at home.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means. Do not take that as a I need to go everywhere. Now I got days off of work, so I'm gonna go here, there, and everywhere. No, 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 no.
Stay home, rest,
So
take
another
a good hot bath.
now Australia has 5 people, breaking news, 5 people, preliminary tests have come back positive for the disease in Sydney. Australia now has 5 people who have contracted the virus. That's coming from 9 News Australia. So continue, Red.
Stay home. Okay. Reasons why you should stay at home. A, don't affect others. That's the biggest one. Okay. That's going to cut down
News
on.
saying it's official. China has shut down its internet. If that is true, we're going into the home stretch, y'all. Seriously. Because if they have shut down their internet, we're not going to get any information out of China about how bad this gets. And they're on a holiday week, so all their banks are closed. We're not going to see what their stock market looks like. Oh, this is not good. Not good. Let's see if I can find anything else. Continue, Red.
It's going to cut down on spreading anything. It's going to ixnay the pandemic. It's going to ixnay overcrowding of sick people in places together and non-sick people in places together. Okay. So if you're feeling sick, this isn't like quarantine, but it kind of is like, be responsible for yourself. Be responsible for your self-care. Be responsible for your self-wellness. Be responsible for your actions. If you feel sick, stay at home. Do the things that you need to do to stay well or get better. This still includes upping your immune system, helping your immune system fight off what you have. Okay. Now, the coronavirus, if you know that you have it, and well, you don't have to know that you have it. As soon as you start feeling any symptoms at all of feeling ill, do the natural remedy things that can prevent illness, viral and or bacterial. These things include echinacea, golden seal, elderberry, garlic, lemon, oil of oregano, sage. Sage in the oil. Sage is a spice. Sage being burned in the air. Sage being burned in the air has proven to kill airborne bacterial and viral. Okay, now it's not necessarily good to breathe in. Now, another thing that sage is extremely good for is pneumonia, bronchitis, upper respiratory issues. Okay, why? Why would it be good for that? Because it's so smoky and it hurts. Yes, it does. But, this is part of why it heals. Now, the best way to do this is to sage a room, heavily, which basically is light your sage stick, set it within your abalone shell or your holder of whatever it is that you have for your sage. People use different things. But you would place it in there and let it just burn for like 10 to 15 minutes. Fill the whole room with smoke. And then when you come in, put it out, crack a window, let the smoke start clearing out and start breathing normally. Don't overextend until the smoke has cleared the room. This is going to help kill all the germs within your room, as well as within your lung system and your body. It's going to help as well. Now, you can also use sage as the cooking agent, put in stuff, add it to your items. Very good things to be eating right now to help boost your vitamin C and stuff. Broccoli, cabbages, spinach, green, lots of green. You want to get those in there. You know, add garlic to that, add lemon to that, add all of these things, sage, a little parsley. These are all major things that help boost your immune system. Vitamin C's you're going to get a great amount of them in your green.
Right.
Through natural ways. Now, other things that you can do if you're truly sick and you're trying to just relieve some symptoms more than necessarily cure them. Fenugreek tea, fenugreek seed tea is amazing for all types of health issues, but especially like influenza, colds, these types of things works amazing. Horehound candy or horehound cough drops, amazing. Now, for those that don't know how to get their hands on horehound, you can simply do this and get a lot of these other things that boost the immune system and help fight off these things in Ricola Original Drop. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which you can buy pretty much at any damn store nowadays.
希望每个能看到我视频的朋友们都
But it needs to be the Ricola Original in the yellow packaging. Okay.
Right.
Now, fenugreek you can order online if you don't have like a local herb shop or herb trade place. Like Frontier, for instance, is a great place for herb trading, buying, purchasing. So lavender is another good one. Lavender teas, lavender in a diffuser. Thieves oil.
Yes.
This is great. Thieves oil is going to protect you from a lot. You know, it did protect him from the Black Plague. Just saying. Might want to give it a shot against some coronavirus. Okay. These are all things that you can do at home. Salt lamp, burn a salt lamp. Another good way to kill germs and keep the environment free. We live in tight spacing here. We live in kind of tight spacing here. So when somebody gets sick, we are drastically trying to make sure that everyone doesn't get sick. A lot of times just burning a salt lamp at night, especially at night, but we keep it burning most of the day. But keeping a salt lamp burning even between the two children who sleep, you know, with just like a walkway between their beds. One could be sick and we could burn the salt lamp in between the two of them. The other one would not get sick. We have them positioned throughout. So, you know, salt lamps, and that's the first key. Feeling sick, stay home. Do these at-home remedies. Make yourself well. If then you are worsening and not getting better, now is when you should go further seeking treatments and help. But you can do all these preventative measures and get your immune system bucked up and ready so that you may not even hardly have any symptoms or side effects. Turmeric is another good thing to put into your diet right now to keep your immune system built and help fight off things. Has amazing antibiotics, again, against viral and bacterial. So going on these things, remember that everybody who's anybody right now is fearing coronavirus. So they get a little tickle in their throat, they're running to the ER and they're going, oh my gosh, I might have the coronavirus. They're going to test them because they came in saying it. And probably 9 out of every 10, we'll say, just for numbers, are not going to have it. In most cases, 10 out of 10 aren't going to have it. But now you've put yourself in an overcrowded environment of people that might have other things as well. And there could be one person in that whole place that has it. And you put yourself at risk by putting yourself there rather than just staying at home and, you know, a tickle in the throat. Gargle some salt water, preferably Himalayan sea salt or black salt, or a more pure salt other than iodized. But if that's all you have, use it. But a good gargle made of a little lemon juice, a little apple cider vinegar, a little salt water, and gargle that, and then a teaspoon or so of raw honey, and 10 to 1, you're going to cure anything that affects you, up to and including strep throat. Just a thought. That has proven to be an effective combination for my family personally for fighting off any type of throat problems, infections, up to and including strep throat, like I just mentioned. So we have talked a lot on Journey the last 2 episodes about the folk medicine versus, you know, well, all the different lineages of folk medicine even, as well as modern, more modernized medicine. And, you know, I think that we lost track a lot of
All right, Ryan, I'm back.
oh, well, welcome back.
Yeah.
You know, don't put yourself in overcrowded hospital type situations if you absolutely don't need to. Don't freak out just because you suddenly have puked or you're suddenly feeling some influenza type symptoms. Like, don't just rush out to the freaking ER or where not. You know, try some things on your own and see if you can't do your own healthcare wellness.
Right.
You know, you feel a little fever going on. Sage, again, is another thing that in folklore specifically, they use sage for fever because it does kill bacteria airborne and within us, as well as viral. So I can see why they would link that back then, especially. So, you know, I'm just saying these small things, you know, you have a fever, ginger bath, thieves oil, you know, sweat it out. I mean, back in my day, we were told never to stop the fever. The fever fights. The fever gets rid of what is the problem. you sweat it out. So like my best advice really, if you have a fever, is do a ginger bath. Now, a full ginger bath means that the bath needs to be 98 degrees or hotter if you can get it, but no hotter than 108. And then you would drop ginger, raw ginger, powdered ginger, dried ginger, however you can get your ginger. About a teaspoon, maybe a half teaspoon, depending on how your skin is sensitive or not, how sensitive your skin is or not to ginger, but you would add it and then you would soak until the water has completely cooled. And then you would get out and pat yourself down dry, and then wrap yourself in an all white cotton sheet, whatever, blanket, whatever it is. Just make sure it's all white, make sure it covers the head, everything. You want it to come around, and you want to wrap yourself as tightly as you can. And then you want to put yourself to bed and you want to go to sleep. And while you're sleeping, it would probably be a good idea to have, say, a humidifier going and possibly a air purification, such as the salt lamp going. Also maybe a diffuser with some thieves oil or lavender oil or oil of oregano or any of these things going all at the same time. Also, always a go-to for anything upper respiratory, bothersome, sinus, anything like that. I know that a lot of holistic people kind of stay away from stuff like this, but Vicks works wonders. It's been here for so long because it works. It works. Okay, now there are natural versions of it too. You can get whichever. It doesn't really matter. Even the Vicks, the actual Vicks doesn't really have a whole lot of bad stuff in it. And I guess there's a couple ingredients in there that could be slightly questionable, but at the same time, not really. So, I mean, Vicks does amazing things. So I always highly recommend that. That's been part of home remedy, folkloric, holistic type medicine since I can remember. My great-great-grandmother was using Vicks for like darn near everything.
Right.
And it always seemed to work for the majority of the time. So I think these are all key factors in helping to keep down spreading it, being caught around others maybe that have it, and if you know that you're going to be out and you're going to be in public, take a little extra to boost that immune system when you go out. There's nothing wrong with putting on a little armor.
Yes, put some armor on. That's a really good way to, talk about it, is put some armor on and make yourself
10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Yep.
Okay, except in this instance, we're going to say 10 foot tall and virus proof.
Right.
Okay, because you can do it.
Yeah, you can.
It's not that hard that, okay, for instance, I went to town today to do grocery shopping. So I took 2 echinacea today and I took 2 elderberry today.
Right.
Okay, 1 of each before I went out and 1 of each when I came home. This boosts my immune system for when I was going out and secures that for when I have come home. And now hopefully will prevent me from having picked anything up while I was out. This generally tends to work very well for me. I've been doing this for like a year or so
Right.
now. Always making sure that when I was going out. No, I guess it's been longer. No, I don't know. It was around the time that I started working at Sonic and I was having to be in the public every day.
Right.
So I started taking elderberry and echinacea and golden seal and magnesium. I think I was taking some magnesium, things of that nature. So, but I've been doing that now. Whenever I know I got to be out in public, or like even at work when I know people at work are getting sick.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the crazy lady that walks around and is like, elderberry pill for you, elderberry pill for you, elderberry pill for you, elderberry pill for you. I pass that shit out like it's free.
I don't blame you though.
Okay, I'm like walking around like, elderberry pill for me, elderberry pill for you, elderberry pill for me, elderberry pill for you.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you on that. You know, if we can, and it just helps people understand new habits for health, right? You know, getting the elderberry in your system is only going to make your immune system stronger. You know, you can even find it
Better.
at grocery stores now.
Right.
I found my last container of elderberry extract that only has a couple ingredients. So I'm not that concerned, you know, I'm not too concerned about it. Can allow that. So I mean, it's just something to think about. Definitely.
I actually found my elderberry, believe it or not, in this Rexall. Now, I don't have the elderberry on me right now at this moment. This is the echinacea, but it's made by the same place. And it is the exact strain that I was looking for. And it's a juice concentrate in pill. And it is 600 milligrams per pill. And there's 60 capsules in a thing. And I pay about $3.40 for it at Dollar General.
Wow.
Okay, and there's nothing else in these. Like the echinacea, this is an older bottle, but literally the ingredients are echinacea root, glycerin, and that's it.
See, that's not too, you know, that's not too crazy when you really think about what they all could be trying to add.
So, and then the elderberry, I know, is just the juice concentrate in a glycerin pill. So, again, it's the same way. And, you know, that's at the Dollar General.
Right.
So these are things that are there. They're available for even the lowest cost of people that can't really afford things. You can afford $4 for some elderberry to keep your shit healthy.
That's true.
Okay, this echinacea is like $3 again at Dollar General. And this is the echinacea whole herb 400 milligrams.
Right.
And it even says on here that it is traditionally used for immune system health.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm just saying, again, this is like $3. You can afford $3 for your health and well-being.
Right.
Okay. I'm just throwing that out there, saying that out loud right now. Okay.
Right.
Now, Wow.
I'm starving. I'm sitting over here ordering tasty different types of food. Pretty excited about it. Oh, I have a video that we need to show everybody. This is from a Wuhan coronavirus victim that I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show this video. Oh, no, share computer sound. Up to my screen for sharing video clip. Here we go. Okay, so this is from a Chinese gentleman, but we're not going to have the sound on because, I mean, I guess we could, but
看到我视频的朋友们都能够比较珍惜我这个视频，因为实在是发之不易。在我们中国大陆，是吧？要翻墙，要克服各种各样的困难，而且网络延迟特别的卡，所以我也是被逼无奈才跑到这个位置，是吧？希望有更多的华人同胞，有更多心地善良的人能够看到，能够注意到这次武汉肺炎所谓的冠状病毒这次疫情的严重性和我们本地人生活的一个实际情况。现在整个武汉市所有的交通枢纽、公共交通全部被停掉了，然后据说加油站也停止加油了。然后呢，我不禁有几点疑问，比方说你家里的亲人有个什么高血压呀、心脏病啊，现在需要去医院，怎么去呢？打那个急救电话120，各位可以试一下，根本就打不通，完全就打不通，一直是忙音。再比方说你怀疑自个儿是否染上了这次的武汉肺炎吧，你想去医院做一个那个诊断，你根本就去不了，你怎么去？医院人满为患，医生他不叫你去挂号什么的，就排队，你排几个小时可能都不搭理你，你本来没什么事儿的，你去排队，可能就交叉感染了。然后我再说一个我亲眼看到的，在1月23号武汉封城之前的头一天，22号，包括22号之前，整个武汉市满大街戴口罩的人都不多，一大堆就是不戴口罩的，还在麻将室里面打麻将，还在到处交头接耳，包括一些小商小贩。我也想问一下，我们大家一块儿在这个公共平台上探讨一下，武汉市市长、党委书记在干什么？作为一个地方的高级官员、一把手，他们难道没有得到信息吗？如果说他们第一时间得到了信息，为什么没有全程的电视讲话，没有第一时间的甚至强制性的要求我们老百姓戴口罩，提高防范的警惕呢？如果说他没有得到信息，那就说明他失职，这个人根本就不适合做地方官，早就该滚蛋了。难道不是这个样子吗？难道我的逻辑有问题吗？然后直到1月23号封城之后，我们整个武汉市才每个社区门口贴了一个单子，上面写着什么要求每个老百姓戴上口罩。然后从23号，昨天24，今天25号才开始陆陆续续看到戴口罩的明显增多了。那证明并不是武汉市本地人老百姓不配合，而是当地政府有关部门根本就不作为，或者说他们别有目的。至于说是什么，我们不展开探讨，我们只能说在这一次疫情中， 2003年已经有了非典那一次前车之鉴了，而现在只能说是在重复历史的错误，而且眼下这一次的情况绝对和03年的非典疫情有过之而不及。现在你想出个门是吧？想去就个诊，所有的公共交通全部停掉了，是吧？你自己想开车出门去医院，加油站不给加油。当然，这个加油站是否停了，我也是从网上听到的，我没有去证实，所以这个东西还有待商榷。然后，目前所有的一些情况就是医疗全部都瘫痪了，或者说混乱不堪。我很多内部的在医院工作的朋友给我反馈的信息就是，你进了医院，也就是给你打点消炎药，给你打点激素，说白了，然后一样也是等死，就是很赤裸裸的等死。你自个儿身体强壮能扛过去，你就扛过去了；你扛不过去，也就挂掉了。然后最他妈搞笑的就是，有些疑似病例，实际上他可能就是，但是他们医疗系统可能因为缺那个什么病毒试剂，或者说因为他们医疗资源跟不上，他就叫你回家自行隔离。我请问一下，他妈的，这个地球上还能找出第二个国家是这么扯淡吗？不要说你是不是疑似病例，哪怕是1/1000的概率，肯定也要对你进行比较完善的一个诊断和判断吧？怎么能这随随便便就叫你回家呢？万一你是一个超级病毒携带者，那不就等于说政府公开的，或者说医疗安卫部门公开的叫你带着病毒回社区吗？
Okay. Now I will be able to hear you, I think.
Yeah. He said that
I can't really read the screen. It's like his words underneath are fuzzy for me.
Okay. Well, the people will be able to see this, so.
Yeah. Oh, now I can. This way I can.
Okay. I had it like that before.
Yeah, but before it was all like weird. The writing on the bottom was weird. Now it's not.
Okay, cool. But he says you have to lie to survive. He said there's no more test kits. The gas stations have no gas. He's saying that, you know, he wants to obviously speak your heart with your own conscience. Because he sees that everybody, you know, the first couple of days, even on the 22nd, nobody was really wearing masks even yet. And now everybody's wearing masks. Everybody is not able to move. See, look, they were supposed to build Wuhan like New York.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you know, he talks about, you know, what's been going on and how they're not even treating you if you go to the hospital. He said he had to use VPNs and everything else to even get this video on YouTube. Oh, and Wuhan has an accent. So people probably know if you're from Wuhan or not. And I'm sure this is not a good omen for the first day of the Lunar New Year, like he says.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's death and destruction.
Right.
And potential fear of what's going to occur.
Right.
I mean, here he says, I hope that at least me and my friends in our 20s and 30s, you know, I hope that these people who are not dumbasses and not brainwashed, good for him. You know, I really hope that people wake up in this and see, like, it might be a fight for our lives. We might have to lock ourselves in our homes for months and lock down. I hate to say that, but I really feel like if this is spreading to the level that, like he's saying, they're shooting people on sight, is what I've been hearing, who are trying to escape or move to any area or trying to go to hospitals, that the military is shooting them on sight. And like he says, he just wants to create some public pressure So the Chinese government is held responsible. Oh, they're on an island? Oh, look at this. The Chinese government has went to an island, you guys. Just think about that. While they're living in their ivory tower, everybody is dying around you.
Wow.
You know, and they're saying, oh, we're on this island and we are going to, you know, give instructions from here because it's safer. They said nobody can get diagnosed because they ran out of test kits. And like we heard, you know, with this viral pneumonia, that it basically cuts off your air supply. And they said the virus isn't causing symptoms or fever or cough or anything. So how are you supposed to know you even have it? You're just going to stop breathing. I mean, honestly, you're just going to start breathing. Just stop. So they've already, like he said, figured out through many studies that this is happening. Oh, 1 month before the lockdown, during the New Year rush, 1 million or 2 have already left Wuhan. I heard estimates of 11 million people plus had went and visited. And he's got a good point. What the fuck have they been doing before this? They've known since December 6th that this is happening. They've known. And I hope they don't pick up this guy like they picked up other people. He should have blocked whatever that is behind him because, you know, the last time somebody made a video even speaking out about Xi Jinping or even the Chinese government got snatched up. What about Ink Girl? We ain't heard about Ink Girl. He got snatched up by the government a while ago. So, I mean, and his video is almost over. But I think this is really important. This man is crying out as a Chinese citizen for people to help this poor guy. I feel awful for him. Absolutely awful for him. It's just sad.
Hopefully,
Go ahead.
because I don't want to be this person, but at the same time, you know, got to look at it from all sides. Hopefully it's a real video and not some bullshit made up thing.
Right.
That somebody's doing for attention, because they do it.
They do that because last night we showed a video, and I'm going to share the screen again real quick. Last night we showed a video that basically was the same thing. Like, you know, it was pictures and stuff. I'm going to pause the share and see if I can get this out of here. Why won't it let me get this out of here? Let me stop the share. Can I make this smaller? No. Okay. Well, apparently nothing wants to work for me right now. That's all right. Oh, there we go. I can make it smaller this way. Close those tabs because for some reason it wouldn't let me make it smaller. So, you know, I've just been kind of cruising, you know, Twitter and trying to get some information because I think it's important.
Right.
You know, this could definitely put us in a situation where a lot of us are in danger. We could all go down very quickly if we do not have our immune systems ready and primed.
I also think that it's highly important for us to go back for a moment and remember that there are two primary modes of healing: empiricism and rationality. Empiricism is searching for knowledge based on practical experience rather than principles. Rationalism is searching for knowledge based on the established laws and principles rather than on what can be directly perceived.
Right.
All sciences, including medicine, are approached from either perspective. Currently, the dominant approach in medicine is rationalism. Your empirical perspective holds more with your holistic practitioners, folk healers, herbalists. There were some points in history that empirical did actually predominate. Now, the very earliest approach to medicine in the primitive society, they actually called ethno-medicine. Ethno-medicine is the approach of various different societies and the similar ways of their folk medicine, their empirical practices, their habits and their health, their lore that is passed by word of mouth from generation to generation. This is knowledge. This is knowledge based on information gained through experience.
Right.
Okay. Now, it's important to remember that because we have now become the society that believes in the rationalism. We prefer now, not we, but many, have abandoned Hippocrates and his beliefs and his writings and have decided to go with this more rational school of thought. And, you know, it's sad because that really came about in second century Greece with the physician Galen, and he was rational medicine. And he basically was to rational medicine what Hippocrates was to empirical folk-based type medicine. Galen created a theory of medicine that's based on mechanical laws of anatomy, logic, and physiology. He believed doctors should be guided by theory rather than observation. So he put a special emphasis on proper function of several independent organs, believing that these, such as the heart, lung, the liver, were life's wellspring and not any vital force supposedly surging through the cosmos. He advocated elevating the physician to a special role, differentiating him from the lay practitioner of the folk healer. So Galen, as a single-handed person, determined the rest of the path of medicine up to and including currently. This fundamental viewpoint set that Galen set became the majority opinion and has stayed that even in today's healing profession. So just about everyone within the medical profession is following the footsteps of Galen or Hippocrates. And so I think that it's important for us to remember that the whole way that we really got onto the distinctions and doing this and being like that was all the result of one man and his theory. Not even fact, not even truth, not even tested really. And his theory, which it just blows my mind why we would do this in medicine, especially. Why would we ignore what we can physically see, what we physically witness, what we physically experience, what we're physically present for? Why would we ignore that because it didn't match what your paper or your book or your mechanical system says?
That's just it. That's just it.
You know, this again goes to that whole, we are individuals. We are each individual, and medicine is not a one size fits all. And this is a huge difference between allopathic medicine and holistic medicine. Holistic medicine, folklore medicine, whatever you want to label it, at home remedies, whatever, you know, it's been downgraded and it's been belittled. And that started with Galen, and it has continued throughout the centuries because this is what they do. This is how they do it. They discredit it. They get rid of it. They push it under the rug. But the part that they fail to tell you is that every single thing that their medicine is based on started and originated here.
Right.
Their medicine began by studying the folklore and the holistic and the medicine man of different colonies, tribes, and societies. The first pharmaceuticals were nothing more than the simple mixing of different kitchen herbs used in folk medicine. Then it progressed to synthesize things. Because, well, you can't patent and charge for nature.
That's true.
So, you know, they've belittled, they've done all this, but their very thing that they've belittled and done all this to is in fact the very thing in which they owe their own medicine even being invented from.
Right.
So basically now they're trying to erase their parents.
True.
And have been working on it for quite some time. I mean, obviously since Galen's time. Even a little bit before that, but it got real serious at Galen's time. So, you know, I mean, how are you going to do that? How are you going to become, you know, okay, you can definitely do your own thing, and they're not saying that you can't, but why do you have to eliminate their thing in the process? Like, why are you trying to eliminate the parents of your whole shindig?
True.
Why would you do that? Oh, wait, so you can erase its history. Why would you want to do that? Oh, wait, so people don't know that they can be well without our synthesized, man-made, patented, expensive drugs.
Exactly.
Because we don't want you to know how easy it is to actually stay well. because we don't want you to know any of that. Because see, you also need to understand that back in the day, you didn't just call the folk healer or the medicine man right away. Like if you got sick, you tried on your own to cure yourself. And then if you needed backup is when you called the folk healer, the holistic healer, the medicine man, medicine woman, whatever. We didn't just run right out to them. You know, and again, go back to the caveman days. Do you think like the first time the caveman like hurt himself, injured himself, that there was like a folk healer or a doctor or anybody that knew how to help him?
Probably not.
You know, no. He had to suck up, buck up, and figure that shit out. That being stated, that's been going on since the dawn of man. And yet this is the very science and facts in which that you deny.
True.
For something that is less than 100 years old.
Less than 100 years. That's,
yes,
you know,
our
in the, you know, the long range of time. It's interesting.
Yes, because our mechanical modern allopathic medicine is less than 100 years old.
Right.
And again, it started by different philosophers, actually, not even doctors or anything of that nature, philosophers and poets, oddly enough, that began traveling around and collecting different tribes, societies, culture, folklore.
Right.
How they were healing their sick. And they collected all of these in little data infos. And then they were like, ooh, now I can cure people. And they started using those things. And this is how it started. This is how it began.
Right.
So this also brings me to a really good point too, that we've talked about way in the past on Journey. But when we would bring up all my different certifications, for instance, and we would get people that would be like, well, why would you have that many? Or it's not even possible to have that many. Or how did you get that? Because apparently this writing within my DNA is actually really, really strong. And I've unlocked it. And that's how we were supposed to learn. That's what a folk healer, holistic practitioner, metaphysician, whatever you want to call us, herbalist, naturopath, nurturopath. There's tons of different names now. But all of these are different things, just like all of my certifications are different branches of a lot of the same way of healing, but this is how it was supposed to be done. This is how the old school, more advanced healer was working.
Right.
So I'm following in my DNA. I'm following in the footsteps of my embedded crystalline history.
Right.
Apparently quite well. But people have strayed so far away from even believing that we're capable of even self-maintenance.
Yep. Yep.
Like, you have to think of yourself as a fine piece of like a musical instrument, right? Like, let's say a piano. Think of yourself as a piano. You need tuned. You need to be kept up with. Your keys need to be polished. Your strings have to be maintained. You actually have to be put, on the right tune. Your pedals have to be oiled. Your wood needs to be babied. All of these things have to happen in order for you to sound your ultimate best.
Right.
Why do you think it's any different just because it's your body?
True.
It still takes maintenance. It still takes things to keep up with. And listen, guys, I love each and every one of you. But let's be honest, right? Let's be 100% real with ourselves and each other right now. We ain't married. We ain't gonna lie to each other, right? Right. So most of our diets are not good.
No, they're not. And honestly, I just sat and ordered pizza, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But I don't have any other food in the house. So, what you do?
Well, I say that, and I've been sitting here the entire time munching on popcorn, but popcorn's really not that bad of a snack.
No, popcorn's a healthy snack because it has whole grains. As long as you get like a good source of popcorn, it's obviously more digestible than corn itself.
Right.
Not to be that guy, but it's not like you ever like find like popcorn like you do corn.
Right.
Just saying.
So, I have been sitting here eating popcorn. That's been my little dirty treat while I've been doing this. But popcorn really isn't that bad. But in all honesty, my diet was not very good, guys. It really wasn't. Well, actually, that's not true. My diet was actually pretty daggone decent, and then I started working at Sonic, and my diet went to total and utter shit.
Right.
And you can ask Scarlett, because she can tell you, along with many, many other people that know me, my health went downhill like super quick after like 3 months.
True.
And the only thing that really changed for me was my sleeping habits, because now I was getting up at crazy butt crack hour and going to work and not getting done with work, literally working like 12-hour shifts and not having breaks. And the only thing that I was eating was either Sonic or McDonald's, because those are the only two things in the town that I worked at, unless I actually got a break that I could go over to like Walmart and find something for myself. But then you got to be really careful about that, because you're bringing it into Sonic, and that's like borderline. Do you see what I mean? Like, you have to keep it at a certain area, and then there's no way for me to make it then. Do you see what I mean? Like, So my diet went to shit super quick. And I got McDonald's only when I let another employee usually go for a lunch and they went to Sonic. Now I got lucky they went to McDonald's. Now I got lucky every now and again, and you would get a worker that would be like, oh, I'm going to pre-order food at this place. Do you want something? And you get something more decent. But I still wasn't eating very good because that decent was just like a calzone or nachos or something of that nature. Like the best thing I think I ate through that entire 6-month period was when I would go to the Thai restaurant. And I would have to do that before work and get something and take it with me to work or eat before work. But that was probably the best thing that I was getting when I was working there. And my health went down pretty quick. Not necessarily getting sick, but I was tired. I was irritable. I started getting severe pain in my back and running down my leg and things of this nature going on. And then I found an amazing chiropractor and he gave me some tips. And one of those tips was I had changed my diet.
Yep.
So here I am, about 6 months since I found him, and he told me I have to change my diet. And I really did. I really changed a lot. I did a lot of his recommendations and have continued to do most of them. Even now, even though I don't necessarily need to anymore, because I haven't had any symptoms of anything in so freaking long, I can't even tell you. But that all aside, simple changes like, okay, I wasn't eating enough. So he needed me to up eating, but not empty calories either.
Right.
So he wanted me to eat 4 to 6 times a day. 3 of those needed to be actual meals: breakfast, lunch, dinner. Oh, breakfast, lunch, and dinner you wanted me to have. Specific emphasis on breakfast. And here's something that I really wasn't that aware of, because I thought that a decent breakfast in the morning was like a good, like, onion bagel with a little cream cheese, maybe even a little bit of cottage cheese with it or applesauce with it. And my cup of coffee. Guess what? This is apparently not really at all good for us in any way, shape, or form. Like, when this chiropractor asked me about my eating habits, I was like totally stoked to tell him, because I felt like I'd already made so many changes in my diet just since moving out west and starting this simple life and all of these simple things. Now, for the first time ever, when somebody was like, tell me about your eating habits, I thought I was like bragging, like, then there's some mornings where we do have, yogurt or some granola in with the yogurt. Definitely, usually always fruit. Fruit's okay. Yogurt's decent, but still not what you need to be having. Your breakfast needs to be protein. There was a reason back in the day that breakfast apparently was such a big deal, and there were mountains of pancakes and scrambled eggs and bacon. Like, I remember these times. My grandmother cooked like that. My mom and dad often had breakfast like that. We also had like oatmeal breakfast, cream of wheat breakfast, grits with eggs, toast. We often had things like that when I was growing up. And I think today's society, just in general, we strayed away from that. And there was something to be said for it, because we needed the protein in the morning.
Protein is important.
What?
Protein is important.
Right, because
a building block of energy.
Right. And when we start our day with a large amount of protein, this is what carries us through and gives us the energy for the day. Now, lunchtime is when we need to replenish the protein again.
Mm-hmm.
So again, at lunchtime, you need some good proteins, but you need to get them from a good source. Nuts, fruits.
Cheese.
What?
Cheese.
Cheese, a good like little meat sandwich or even a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Sounds weird, right? But what has more protein in it than freaking peanut butter?
Not too many things.
I'm just saying, there was a thing. Think about it. When you were younger and you got stuff packed for you or you ate at home for lunch, think of the things that they used to give you. Think of the things that your mom and grandma and everybody used to give you for like lunch, right?
Right.
Really stop and think about that. Peanut butter and jellies, chicken noodle soup, and grilled cheeses, bologna and cheese sandwiches,
meat and crackers,
cheese and crackers. I used to a lot when I was younger, when I learned to kind of cook pretty much, for myself. Nothing too massive, but when I figured out, the kind of basic game of it, I went through a stage, man, of thin angel hair spaghetti noodles with Velveeta cheese.
Oh.
Like melted on the noodles. It was like my jam for like 4 freaking years.
Wow.
That's what I ate for lunch for like 4 years. And what I ate for breakfast during that time, actually, oddly enough, was scrambled eggs with mustard.
Really?
That was like my jam for the longest time. Yeah. And then whatever mom made for dinner. And we always had pretty roundabout dinners. Think about the things that you used to have for dinner. You'd sit down for dinner and there'd be like meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, corn.
Right. Or spaghetti or tacos.
Right.
Or
but if it was spaghetti, it was a salad.
Right.
Spaghetti, garlic bread.
Yep.
It wasn't just some noodles and sauce.
Right.
you know, and spaghetti usually consisted of having a meat in your spaghetti as well.
True.
You know, there were pretty rounded meals. Now, don't get me wrong, we had days that my mother would call fend for yourself,
Right.
where she wasn't cooking nothing. But there were leftovers in the fridge. All I had to do was open one of the fucking 55, country crock containers in there, figure out which one ain't butter.
Right.
I can't tell you how many years I spent opening the damn fridge, looking for butter and finding everything but.
Right.
You open this container, it's full of mashed potatoes. You open that one, it's full of freaking macaroni and cheese. You open the next one, it's full of corn. You open the next one, it's got freaking stuffing in it. You open the next one, oh, finally, butter.
Ain't that the truth, though?
Well, back in the day, man, your parents did not. Nothing went to waste, G, so they bought Country Crock. Country Crock was like the main thing. Everybody was using Country Crock.
True. That's true.
Okay. Country Crock totally took over butter's place.
Right. And then because butter was expensive, really, truly.
Yes.
Now it's not too, it is still quite a big difference, but a lot of brands now are at least not using the hydrogenated oils, and it's not super chemical. They've come out with plant-based versions of Country Crock and others.
Correct.
They're
and the slow churn and all those.
Yeah,
so,
balance and different types of butters and
right,
and all these things now. So it's coming, but because dairy, and two, because dairy is becoming cheaper and cheaper, it's becoming more accessible as well.
Right. Now, Country Crock was the thing. Everybody used Country Crock. So when they got the Country Crock, it came in the tub. And your parents did not throw those away. They got washed and they got put up there, and they were the leftover containers. And if you weren't using Country Crock, you were using Parquet, and it too came.
Or my mom used a lot Blue Bonnet. Everything Blue Bonnet on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And all of these came in tubs.
Yep.
And your parents saved them, they washed them, and they became the leftover containers. So anybody who was anybody back in the 80s and 90s, you spent your entire childhood opening up that fridge going, all right, I got a 50, no, shit, I missed 3, so I've got a 35% chance to pick the one that has butter. Shit. And that was the truth. And on a fend for yourself night, you just opened all your butter containers and figured out which leftovers you wanted. Those were kind of the cool nights, though, because those were the weird nights where you could have a little bit of spaghetti with mashed potatoes and gravy that your mother would never bake together, but you thought was freaking amazing. And you know what else we don't have anymore? We don't really have good old-fashioned kind of like restaurants anymore. That sounds weird, right? But like back in my day when we went to a restaurant, like it was like a buffet, man. Like you could pick from so much stuff, and it was like homemade stuff. It wasn't like box crap. It wasn't full crap. Like Ponderosas were the bomb. Bonanzas were the bomb. Anywhere who was anywhere, any place that you ate had a buffet. You don't see that no more. It's rare. It's you know, now your buffets are like the Chinese buffet or Golden Corral. I think it's probably the best one around anymore, really. The last time I went to a Ponderosa, it was completely disgusting, and that was like over 6 years ago, I guess. So it was an awful enough experience that I have not sought out or went to a Ponderosa since. You know, there used to be a good breakfast buffet even at Shoney's, the Shoney's restaurant. But I don't even know if those are open.
I haven't seen a Shoney's in years. I bet you they're somewhere in the Midwest.
I know the Shoney's that used to be where I grew up in Indiana is no longer there.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Bennigan's. Bennigan's is hard to find too.
Mm-hmm. So
People
yeah,
love
I
that
mean,
place, though. Or Hula Hands. Remember Hula Hands?
yeah, and back in the day too, when you would go to like Bob Evans. Bob Evans even had a buffet back in the day.
Oh, we didn't have Bob Evans, but
And they got rid of that. Denny's used to have a buffet back in the day. I don't think there's any Denny's that have that anymore.
probably not.
Pizza Hut used to have a buffet.
Yes, they did. And they closed last year, I think, all their inside restaurants.
Well,
I love
that's not completely true because we have an inside Pizza Hut restaurant in Alamosa.
good for them. It's probably because they're franchised and they can stay open, but I think like the main corporate ones,
And they actually still have a salad bar.
good for them. Because, you know, I remember as a kid going with like my grandparents a lot, and we would go to the Tomah, Wisconsin Pizza Hut and go eat inside and get, you know, the little pizza buffet, or if they didn't have that, you know, we'd order a pizza and they'd had a salad bar, I remember. And
Yep.
experience to go inside and eat. Like pizza night was so different. Pizza is different when you like tonight when I ordered a pizza in, or which it got here really quick. They told me it'd be ready by 1:40. When I ran out of the room the first time, I was like, I'll be back. They came with it.
Cool.
Yeah, so I ordered while I was like, well, they're open till 3 a.m., which I thought that's a nice thing. Like, that's a good thing. But I just remember how much fun it was, and it's such a different experience than bringing your pizza home, even carry out, or ordering it at home. Of which,
Right.
with something like this coronavirus, the one thing I'd be concerned about is things like that would cease to be.
Oh, listen. Things like this coronavirus after working at Sonic scares the fuck out of me because think about it. I was sick, literally puking, and they were like, I don't care, you have to come in. They made me come in. I either had to come in or I was losing my management position potentially. That's how they put it, potentially.
Yeah, they
Which
threatened
means-
you.
Right, which means I'm going to lose it. So I went in. And, we have nobody else that can cover you. We have nobody else. Oh, my God. There's nobody that can get there before an hour. Well, you know what? I live an hour away, too.
Right.
I'm not going to make it there for an hour. So what is it any different if I'm not going to make it there an hour or somebody else?
I think that's the truth.
Then they made me work that store alone. I didn't even have a cook for the first 35 minutes. Then the cook came in and he was drunk. Well, he wasn't drunk. He was hung over and couldn't freaking really perform his job. And this is what I had to work with now for the next 3 hours while trying to take orders slammed because there is a festival in town.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And I was literally running to the bathroom. People would hand me their money and I'd have to sit at the freak down and literally like put a 1 minute finger up and run out of the main area into the back, into the bathroom, puke, wash my hands, wash my face, come back out, take the money, give them change,